In this episode, Golden and I discuss WandaVision. Full speed ahead.
The Omega Beam. Full power. The Omega Beam.
Welcome to the Omega Beam number 118. I'm your host, Oren Merton. I think it's safe to say that if you listen to this podcast, you're aware that Disney Plus just aired its first Marvel series, which directly ties into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, called WandaVision. Because of that, we felt pretty free to go full spoilerific on this episode. Now, if you haven't seen it, we do take the first 5 minutes or so to give basic thoughts and keep it spoiler-free, so there is something for you. But for the rest of the episode, there is a spoiler warning in effect. So with that said, let's go! I am here with Golden to talk about WandaVision, the first Marvel Cinematic Universe television program that aired on Disney Plus, and I think we should go full spoiler on this one. It's pretty hard not to give spoilers.
Well, it's kind of like you don't live on the planet. I mean,
right.
After the very first week, people were so irate and so angry about the fact that one person said like one thing because they stayed up until 12:01 Thursday night.
Right, that they aired on
when
Fridays.
It dropped. It's like you had to for the run of the series, and even now, avoid all social media.
Yeah, pretty much.
Otherwise, there will be spoilers.
Absolutely. So we'll give you guys a moment. Suffice to say...
we can talk for a few minutes without spoilers.
We'll talk to a few minutes without spoilers.
It is definitely, I think, a success.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they created an air of mystery, and because you had to wait for the next week, it was like, what? No!
And if you like the Marvel movies and you like how they kind of genre blend, like the Ant-Man movies are heist movies and others are sci-fi movies, this also, it blends sitcom, and it blends mystery, and it blends drama.
Yes.
So it packs a lot.
And it is a callback to the old TV shows.
Yes.
And there's a reason for it, though. It's not just, this will be fun to do.
Right.
There's a reason for them going there.
Yeah, and I think that we've sang this praise of other shows, such as The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, where rather than every program having to make an arbitrary number of minutes, they go as long as they need to go. It's ostensibly half an hour an episode, but some are 40 minutes, some are less.
And because it's Marvel, there will be something in the end credits.
That's right.
For most of them.
Actually, I don't think there were for most. It was only the last few.
Only the last few that
had mid-credits or end credits scenes. But, again,
they're worth catching.
Yeah, they're worth catching.
You know that it's over when the screen goes small for the credits.
Right. When one program's over and they're going to go to another one, they do that, like you were saying, the sort of window-in-window thing. And if it hasn't gone window-in-window yet, there's probably something coming.
And it's definitely, I heard, one person was talking about the fact that, we really didn't get to see with the big Marvel spread leading into Endgame, that there were holes in the Wanda and Vision romance and story.
Mm-hmm.
And you get some of that filled in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
It's hard not to have any spoilers at all with this. And I think that Disney was kind of smart about doing that one episode because it created a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
Of course, it also created a lot of upset people because it's like you were afraid to even turn on your TV or your phone. Oh my gosh, no, the banner, no, that banner, dang it.
I will say this. There were other people who agree with me, so it's not just me. But I felt that the first episode or two, I think they went 2 episodes live.
I think it was about the first 3 episodes, though.
Yeah, but they went live with the first 2 at once, and then they leaked one a week. And I enjoyed the first couple, but if that's all I had to go on, if I hadn't already built up the goodwill over the characters, it wasn't the greatest program just the way it begun. But of course, trust me, as it gets going, it really gets going, and I'm glad I stuck with it. But it may, if you like the characters, if you like the Marvel universe, but you watch the first couple and you're like, okay, this is fun, this is cool, but do I really want to stick through 9 episodes? The answer is yes.
And kind of like old, like 30-minute sitcoms, they were 30 minutes, about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Not much over, but a full 30 minutes.
Right.
Well, I was going to say without commercials, but there were commercials.
Right. These do have commercials. Not every episode, but most. But they're sort of in-world commercials.
Yes.
So,
which also, I think, left some things open.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've gone 5 minutes without spoilers. And if you aren't already excited about watching it, then, well, you should be, because it is that good. But
if you haven't already watched it, then it's kind of surprising. Oh, unless you don't have Disney Plus. Not everyone has Disney Plus.
Yeah, I don't know where it's streaming around the globe if there isn't Disney Plus in your region. But hopefully it is available. Or, if you get a VPN, you can tunnel your way into another country's streaming stations and probably watch it that way. But that's a whole other story. That's not illegal. You pay for them and you can do that. But this is not a technical support program, so we're not going to go into how one does that if it sounds interesting to you.
Yeah, that does leave some questions, because if you're in some place that does not yet have Disney Plus, then you probably had a lot of things already spoiled for you as to what's going to happen.
That's true.
Which is kind of disappointing.
It is, because the media is global, even though some of these streaming stations are regional. So I very much hope that wherever you are, this was streaming. If not on Disney Plus, then maybe on another station that Disney owns, or on some other station they sold it to.
And you had the opportunity to see it before too much was spoiled.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even with the spoilers, going back and like watching the entire series again might be very interesting, because you'll see things that, okay, that's why that makes sense.
Absolutely.
It was really well done. And was it that they consulted Dick Van Dyke a little bit too?
Yeah, interestingly,
some of it being based on some of his shows.
Yeah, they consulted with Dick Van Dyke about the Dick Van Dyke Show and stuff. So that was really good. Oh, and that reminds me as well. I don't remember if you told me or if you read the same article, but those first episodes that are full-on sitcoms from earlier decades were filmed before a live studio audience, like a real sitcom. So it was definitely a complete. I mean, they didn't just fake it; they did put on a 60s era.
I think we watched something about it. Like they actually did the special effects, kind of how they would have done it back then.
Right, old school special effects, with wires and the whole thing. Yeah, absolutely. So. All right, WandaVision. Now let's talk spoiler. 3, 2, 1. Spoilers. All right.
There's so much during the entire season. Oh, I think this is going to be who this person is. Oh, this is who this person is. I mean, I think after the first episode, first 2 episodes, we had people online saying, "Oh, Agnes is going to be Agnes Harkness."
Yeah.
Agatha Harkness.
Right.
Agatha.
I think that was the low-hanging fruit, because the name was very similar, and so it kind of lent itself to it. But there were other things.
It was absolutely kind of more obvious when she was like, "Oh, do you want me to take that again?"
Right.
Because you knew that she wasn't the same as everyone else.
Yeah. You knew that she was, faking it.
And, you have to give props to the writers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was extremely well done.
Oh, this was very mind-bending and
you
took a lot of...
You go into WandaVision,
writing.
Not Panavision, but it's very, like, CinemaScope.
Mm-hmm.
It just very TV.
Yeah.
And you go in there thinking, okay, well, I'm going to watch, and no one knew. Even after the first 2 episodes, everyone's, I don't even know what I watched.
Well, that's the thing. In the very beginning, there's like mysteries on mysteries. You're like, Why is Vision alive? I saw him killed off in Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they in a black and white sitcom that has the same like opening as Dick Van Dyke? Why at the end of the sitcom, which has commercials and a laugh track and the whole thing, why at the end do we see the hand of someone in color turning off a set? What's going on? And then in the second one, it's that mystery is not answered, except there's a moment where some guy crawls out of a manhole and Wanda just looks at him and says, no.
And they really had fun with the titles too.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's not until episode 4, which is we interrupt this program.
Right.
That you actually find out what's going on in the world outside of Westview.
Right.
Outside of this WandaVision.
And this was also the first, to speak of that episode 4 was really, I mean, I enjoyed episode 1 and I enjoyed episode 2. Episode 3 is when you started getting some of the clues about what's going on. And it was episode 4 that really hooked me forever.
Well, that, and you also, episode 4 starts out with
the blip.
Hey, this is what happened this is what it looked like when some people came back.
Right. You never saw what happened when people came back, except for in Spider-Man Far From Home, but it was a very short clip of just people showing up in the gym, and it was kind of fun and funny. Whereas in this time, Monica Rambeau shows up in a hospital. The
gravity of it.
Yeah.
It really sinks in.
And there's panic. I mean, people are panicked. They're like, what is going on? What happened? Nobody, because you have some of the staff that have been around for 5 years. And now people are just sort of materializing out of nowhere.
And you've got to assume that some of those people are probably in dire straits.
Right.
And in needing immediate medical attention, and the medical attention may not be available right, like it was when they left.
And it was a harrowing opening. And it was just, we'd never seen the character of Monica Rambeau except as a child in Captain Marvel. Now she's an adult, a professional, and you can see in her eyes the shock of what's going on.
And she goes to her, the company that her mother established.
Right.
And the door won't even open for her.
Yeah.
Because it's been so long.
Right. They changed the locks over the last 5 years, obviously.
It's like I went away and they locked me out of the house.
Yeah.
It's my house.
Exactly.
That probably did happen to a lot of people.
Yeah. It immediately.
I'm gonna go back for 1 second.
Okay.
Because you have your tie-ins. Okay, Monica Rambeau, Captain Marvel, pretty big, and then you have Randall Park's character.
Oh, Agent Woo.
And a callback to the fact that in Ant-Man, when he does this magic trick, he's like, "Oh, you got to show me how to do that."
Absolutely.
And it stuck with him.
Yeah.
And he pulls out this card, from nowhere to hand to Monica Rambeau. And it's just this sweet little callback to Ant-Man and who this character is.
Absolutely. One of the things that Marvel, the movies and the shows now do so well is bringing in the ancillary characters. So obviously Agent Jimmy Woo, they brought in from Ant-Man. They brought in Darcy from the Thor movies. And every time they do that, it's like a payback for following the Marvel Universe. It's like, who these characters are. You already like them. And it just makes it that much sweeter, especially when it's characters like Agent Woo and like Darcy Lewis, who are fan favorites. So I remember watching just a YouTube video while the show was going on, and there were people saying, I want to see a whole new series of just Jimmy Woo and Darcy Lewis X-filing it.
Yeah, there's someone did meme or a
Yeah.
mashup of those.
And yeah, both of those, first of all, both of those actors are incredibly talented and do a great job of pulling off likable. I think that's not necessarily the easiest to do, and they do it so well. And I think they'd be great to watch. I would love to watch a show just about them. But yeah, they end up being part of the real world.
And you just love watching them sitting there basically with popcorn and candy and soda, watching WandaVision.
Yeah, exactly. It's like not only, talk about meta, not only are we watching a show within a show, but they're watching a show within a show within a show.
Well, we're watching them
right.
watch a show.
We're watching them watching the show of what Wanda is doing, which is putting on a show. And yeah, one of the great mysteries at the beginning was, why is she doing this? And in a sense, that they chose sitcoms. It makes perfect in story sense. That's kind of how she viewed America to begin with, and that was her comfort.
I'm still curious why they said it was episode 21 when I looked it up, and then that's is episode 20.
Yeah, that is odd, but
because Marvel doesn't usually make mistakes. So I'd be curious why that was.
Yeah. So what Golden's referring to is in one episode she says
season 3 episode 21.
Right. That is the episode of
the Dick Van Dyke episode that she really loves.
But in real life, the episode they're watching is one. I
think it's supposed to be episode 20.
Yeah. So that's the odd little thing. But it makes perfect sense why when she's looking for her comfort space, that's where she would just automatically go. For all that the first few episodes are sitcoms, it's very clear as the show progresses that really it's about processing grief. That is what the series is ultimately about. And of course...
So we're going to plug something really quick. If you are not aware of a YouTuber, Implicitly Pretentious.
Yes.
Check him out. He's done several episodes already, and I look forward to seeing what he ends up doing with the end of WandaVision, because there's probably going to be another where he talks about grief, and also watch his Knives Out one. His Knives Out one is really awesome.
Yeah. So Implicitly Pretentious, he is I believe, I don't believe. I've seen him in his videos, but he is a British Asian, I believe, philosophy professor, and
who hates his lisp.
Right, who hates his lisp, and he's really into nerd culture as well as philosophy.
He's the professor you would love to have.
Oh, totally, and he analyzes these shows not simply as, oh, I liked this, I didn't like this was good, this wasn't, but he takes it and looks at it in terms of great philosophy and is able to take
myths and legends.
And like good teachers he can take concepts that are fairly intellectual and kind of dense and kind of difficult, and by using these sci-fi fantasy superhero stories, breaks it down and makes it understandable. So yeah, absolutely, and we'd recommend him, and he does a great job with each episode of WandaVision.
Well, he didn't do it for, I think, every episode.
I think he did. I think he did every episode of WandaVision, yeah.
But he definitely focused in on grief, and not just that, but I think with pulling in some of the other characters and other things from Marvel as well.
Right. When you think about Wanda, here is a character who never really had an opportunity that we saw in any of the movies. She never really had an opportunity to sort of recover or process her grief. That she basically goes from losing her parents to losing her brother.
We don't see her process.
Right. We don't. It seems like she's just sort of thrust from mission to mission.
And then she's okay.
And then there she is. And so when Endgame is over, we see her standing by the river with Clint, and she's clearly thinking about, her loss, about Vision. And, Clint says, I wish there was some way we could tell her, talking about Natasha, about Black Widow, that we won. And Wanda says, she knows. And then she says, they both do. And you know she's thinking about Vision. And there was never really a moment where she just sat down. Captain America, Steve Rogers, he spent 5 years running basically therapy programs. So he had 5 years, whether he made it pretty clear that he hadn't moved on, but he still spent 5 years processing. Wanda or Monica Rambeau, who we met in episode 4, these people don't.
And Monica hasn't processed her grief, so she really understands, or she understands to a point what Wanda might be going through.
Yeah.
And refuses to see Wanda as the villain.
Absolutely. And WandaVision, it's not just a kind of origin story for Scarlet Witch, in a sense, for how Wanda becomes Scarlet Witch. It's also an origin story for Monica Rambeau becoming Photon. Her body gets changed as she goes into and out of the hex zone of Wanda's power. And I think one of the wonderful things they do is, they never, it's unclear if Wanda's the villain or not. She doesn't even know, I think.
Well, she even says, well, maybe I am.
Right. She doesn't even know if she's the villain or not. But we all know Monica's a hero all the way through. It's clear. She is a hero. And when Monica says that she's not a villain, don't let her make you the villain. Don't let him make you the villain.
And she says, well, how do you,
right.
Maybe I am.
Monica knows she's not. And when Monica knows she's not the villain, we know she's not the villain because we know Monica's a hero.
Yeah, unfortunately, she is the villain to the people of Westview.
Right. That's the
She just is the unwilling. She didn't realize.
Right. I think that's one of the takeaways of the show. If you let your grief spill over and adversely impact the people around you, when you deal with your grief and when you get better, that doesn't erase the hurt you did to others. She did not mean to hurt these people, but she did, and she knows she did. And it's not okay. She knows it's not okay. Monica tries to make Wanda feel better for it, telling her they don't know what you sacrificed. But Wanda knows what she did. She said, it won't change. It wouldn't change how they looked at me. And it's true. Because you can't just not randomly, but you can't lash out. You can't hurt everyone around you and just expect everything to be okay once you're okay. Or at least once you're getting better.
And we did wonder, why Westview? And we got our answer.
Right. And the answer was beautiful.
Sweet, beautiful, and also just tragic.
That episode 7, where we went back into Wanda's history and we got the backstory, that was an amazingly moving episode. You laughed at the sitcoms, you got excited by the kind of action superhero drama, but that episode 7, when you saw the tragedy in her life, it was moving. I mean, there were a few times that I could
7
feel.
Or 8.
Oh, it may have been 8. You're
8
right.
is previously on.
Yes, you're right. It was 8, not
7 is breaking the fourth wall.
Right. It was moving. I mean, I was quite moved from some of that, and it's got just such a brilliant and beautiful and sweet line. And you can see how Vision and Wanda began to fall in love. You'd think, why would she fall in love with someone who she knows was, a manufactured, being? And it's because his concern was legit. When he sat by her, it wasn't programming. It was because the being that is Vision wanted to comfort her.
And he didn't want anything from her.
Right.
I think everyone else probably, she would think, has an agenda.
Right.
And he simply had no agenda. He was there to learn and just to be. And
he said one of the most perfect lines, perfectly delivered.
Gone light speed around the world.
Yeah. What is grief but love persevering? And it's like, it made Wanda feel better, but it also it was just
You have to assume whoever wrote that line is like sitting there at home after seeing how popular it is, saying, "Yes."
They are going to the bank on that line, but it's both true and it's beautiful. That's, I think, at its best, filmed, scripted programming has wonderful writing, well directed, and delivered expertly by spectacular actors. And this was that situation. The line was great. The camera was exactly where it should be. The actors nailed their performances. It was just a moment where everything it could have been, it was. And I think that this show had a lot of those. It had a lot of moments where, whether it was a fist in the air and, F yeah moment, or whether it was a moving moment, or whether it was, humor, it really nailed everything it was trying to nail, as well as a lot of fan service. Like, it brought in Evan Peters, I believe is the actor's name.
Yeah. Would have been even better. What was his character's name in the other universe? Quicksilver, his real name.
Peter Maximov, I think.
But I think it would have been interesting if his name was actually...
If his name was the same, if they used the same name. Yeah, that's one of the things the show loved to tease all kinds of things. It teased that by bringing in Evan Peters, who is Quicksilver in the Fox Studios X-Men movies, they teased maybe this is going to bring the X-Men back. Paul Bettany teased there was going to be a great cameo at the end when he was really just trolling everyone, and the great cameo was him playing opposite himself as Vision versus White Vision. And even that was handled expertly. It wasn't one Vision kills the other. It wasn't, the two Visions, combine to supervision. It was one Vision that was the body and one Vision that was the heart. And the Vision that was the heart gave the mind back to the body Vision, who goes off to discover himself.
Well, if his objective is to kill the true Vision,
mm-hmm.
then he would be killing himself. But now that he has his own mind back,
right? He knows he knows
he's been manipulated.
Right?
Yeah.
He knows what Vision had experienced. He knows he'd been manipulated. But what's interesting,
they credit Evan Peters
mm-hmm.
as Peter.
As Peter.
Yeah, they don't have a last name.
Okay.
Well, there might be on a different. Yeah. Besides IMDb, but
so
okay.
White Vision gets the memories back that he didn't have, but what he doesn't get back is the emotion that, as a being, Vision had developed.
He might have.
I don't think he did, because that emotion is what was part of the created
Well, I like the
Vision.
fact that there's this big, huge fight, and all of a sudden now Vision and White Vision, it's like, well, logically this is, and he actually stops and is like, okay, well, wait a minute. Elaborate.
Right.
Because he is still a thinking being.
Yeah, and I think they did a really good job of showing that Vision that was in, Wanda's vision that she had created out of whole cloth. And as she put it, you are the Mind Stone, you are my hope, you are my love. That developed over years, and you can give him those memories. You can give White Vision those memories, but that emotion didn't have a chance to grow. And so I think when he flies off, a lot of people are asking...
But we don't know when the other Vision, when Vision unlocks that, he might be unlocking that too. And White Vision needs time to process all of it.
I guess we'll find out in another story, perhaps. But I got the impression that he had the memories, and now he just wanted to go off and grow. And then, our WandaVision goes down to defend his family, even knowing that he is a construct of her mind, and that ultimately...
So when you just said that, we've been thinking of WandaVision as the television show.
Right.
But maybe it's not.
Maybe he is WandaVision.
He's just WandaVision.
Right.
He is Wanda's vision.
He is. He is Wanda's vision. Their farewell was beautiful. because he knew he had to go, and he encouraged her to do the right thing and to stop this manufactured reality. And he did so for the good of both the people of Westview, but also for Wanda. He knew that ultimately,
that seems like the theme of the guys in movies this year. Wonder Woman 2,
right,
Wonder Woman 84.
right, is doing what's right, even when you know that you're going to suffer for it. But I
And
think
you gotta love the line that no matter what, her children and Vision they'll always be a part of each other.
right. And what a wonderful line when she turns to her kids when she puts them to bed and says, "Thank you for choosing to be my children," because she may have created them, but not their personalities. Not, she created the mix, but then they became individuals the same way that Vision, even though he was created by her grief, had his own independent thoughts and did his own independent things. So she was thanking those children for, once they were, brought into being, staying with her.
Yeah, and there's a lot of beautiful callbacks to the original costuming,
Yes.
original characters.
And can we just take a second to say that at the very end of the show, when we see the new Scarlet Witch outfit, how just absolutely spectacular it is.
Yes.
I mean, it is amazing, beautiful. It's modern, and yet it's still an update of the old costume in the best way. It's everything that you would hope fantastic costume design in this kind of a superhero fantasy can be.
Yes.
It's the best kind of fan service, which is fan service without being fan servicey, with it actually being just a great, wonderful, functional costume. So,
and you gotta love, with Monica Rambeau jumping in front of the kids.
Of course, she's the hero. That's what
and
you do.
the other little kid is like, "Nice moves," or whatever he says.
Yeah.
Like, "You too." Well, it's just, there's a little bit of humor,
mm-hmm.
which a little kid might say something like that.
Right.
Which is
absolutely.
nice. And gotta love Darcy Lewis taking out Hayward.
Right. Yeah, of course. I mean, you knew that she didn't show up for an episode or two, and you knew they weren't just going to leave her where they left her, driving an ice cream truck.
Around in circles?
Yeah, around in circles. So you knew
she kept getting stopped.
Yeah.
So she wasn't even going in circles. She couldn't go,
right.
Couldn't even get through the intersection.
You knew that they were going to end up doing something with her, and I thought that was a fun end.
And Wu being able to magic himself or undo the handcuffs.
Yeah,
yeah.
It was fantastic. It was also just a lot of fun how, he tells Hayward, he's like, well, what are my buddies from Quantico going to think? They're going to be here within the hour. And then later he's on the phone. Hey, could I ask you a favor? Could you get here under an hour?
Within the hour?
Yeah. But, those are the kind of humorous touches that we love in Marvel stuff. Speaking of just things we love in Marvel stuff, we should point out that the effects are brilliant. I mean, of course, these are movie level effects, special effects. I mean, these are, excellent. It's a stunning show.
Yeah. If you watch interviews with Elizabeth Olsen talking about how she was doing all of these things and just, she had to theater of the mind it because they, glowing ball. Okay, I have a glowing ball here. And she's just, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Getting used to that.
Yeah. If I were to have one criticism of the show, I mean, maybe I have two criticisms, but they're very minor, and they didn't ruin my enjoyment of the series. But I already talked about in the non-spoiler section, I did think it started a little slow. Now, I don't think anything should be changed because it was great how the sitcoms kind of bring you into the universe that we're in. Which you later find out is the universe of her grief and her processing. But what I think would have helped is if instead of dropping the first two the first week, they would have dropped the first three. By three, more of the overarching story is coming out. And I think that would have alleviated people feeling like, well, I think
it's good the way it was.
Okay.
I think that if they had dropped all three, then it wouldn't have had as much process time for people.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
think doing the first two and people being confused and talking about it with other people online created a lot of conversation
Yeah.
that would have been missing.
It did. It did. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, it's hard these days with streaming, especially when everything drops at once, is to kind of create that quote unquote water cooler moment, to create excitement over every episode and anticipation for the next week. But boy, Disney Plus, both with The Mandalorian and with WandaVision, they sure have managed to do it. So, you may be onto something that I wasn't thinking of. The only other criticism I have is overall, I would say the lead characters and even the supporting characters in WandaVision are all very three-dimensional, well drawn. They all have arcs, just fantastic, with one exception. And that is, unfortunately, I think they went a little bit too stereotype with the mustache twirling bad guy with Hayward. Hayward's his name, right? The sword
so.
guy. Because Wanda is clearly, very conflicted, and this whole thing is processing grief. Even with Agatha, I'm forgetting her last name now. Harkness. She, on the one hand, she just wants power for herself. I mean, she wants this power because she wants to wield it, but at the same time, she's not just evil for evil's sake. She lets Wanda's, as Agatha so amusingly put it, she let Wanda's world of, and I quote, eating breakfast for dinner go on. All she wants is the power. And she even tells Wanda that you don't know how to wield this. You're too dangerous. Give it to me. I know what I'm doing. And so, yeah, she's a selfish, bad, villain, but she's not pure evil. But Haywood was kind of pure evil. He's just like, I just want my big, bad, nasty weapon.
Well, and then he was also violating the Accords.
Right. He's, I mean, from the very first minute, and they even introduce him in a way that everyone's like, oh, he's got to be a villain because he's so nice. When you're first introduced to him, he's like super duper nice. And you're like, oh, nobody's this nice. He's trying to misdirect her. He's a villain. And unfortunately, there didn't seem to be a lot of depth. The reason that you can imagine Hayward wants his own private vision weapon is it's going to help SWORD in their job. And that's not necessarily an evil thing. But we don't even ever see that in the show. In the show, it's just he's a bad guy. Just no nuance.
Well, he's
no
the bad guy
subtlety.
because he wants to just completely destroy Wanda.
Yeah, he wants to destroy Wanda. He wants to destroy the Vision. Ultimately, he wants to destroy Monica Rambeau.
He doesn't care about a peaceful solution.
Yeah, and he doesn't care about, his former boss's daughter either. And, he's just bad. He's bad through and through. And I think if his character would have been given a little bit more nuance, if you would have at least understood why he was doing what he was doing. At one point he says a line, I think to Wanda, I don't remember the exact line, but it was the equivalent of, hey, I was here for 5 years and things sucked. You don't know what that was like either. It's like, okay, there's a little meat there. Let's expand on that a little bit. Why is he how he is? Obviously,
maybe he's worried about another Thanos.
Yeah, I mean, there could be really legitimate reasons that turned him into what he is, just like there are legitimate reasons that turned Wanda into what she was in this show. But we don't see them. Though that's all us, speculating and having fun, just coming up with backstory and fan fiction. It's not in the show. And I do think they could have made Hayward's character a little bit more nuanced, and I think that would have improved the show. And it wouldn't have taken a lot. I mean, they could have just added a line here and there of just motivation, etc. And I think it would have made the character better. But again, like I said, it didn't take me out of the show. It didn't make me enjoy the show less. I believe there's less than 6 hours total in all 9 episodes. And so no one character, other than Wanda and Vision, are focused on, no one supporting character is focused on that much. So even with Hayward just being the black hat, mustache twirling villain, he's not in it enough that it becomes cliche.
You still do have to wonder at the very, very beginning when they show up, the cops are like, oh no, we're from Eastview. There's no Westview. How is it that they just didn't know? And then you get to the end and you have the lady pleading with Wanda, hey, can you just message my husband and let him know, like, I'm okay, whatever she asks.
Yeah.
And then you wonder, well, I wonder what some of these people who were from Westview that just weren't here when this happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
What happened to their memory of Westview or their view of it? Have they tried to come back and then just got distracted and did something else, or what happened?
Yeah. Well, that's what we don't know. Maybe some of this will be told or touched upon in Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, or maybe it won't. I think it's pretty clear that the final after credits scene, where we see Wanda in her isolated cabin up north, probably in what was, I'm guessing, Canada, but I'm guessing it's supposed to be rural Canada, the outback.
Wherever.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Somewhere gorgeous. And where Wanda, the actual being, is just walking around enjoying, a cup of coffee, whereas her astral being, just like Doctor Strange would in Doctor Strange, her astral being is reading, the Darkhold, this dark magic book, to learn how she can be, what she is, the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, because what Agatha said that she lacks is the knowledge.
Right.
The learning.
And so she's trying to make up for that. And at the very, very end, you hear what were her children screaming in her head for help. And her eyes go wide like, huh? And we cut. And I am, we already know that, Elizabeth Olsen and Wanda are co-stars of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
And there's the comment about the fact that she is actually stronger or more powerful than Doctor Strange.
Right. She is more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme.
And yes, you also have to wonder about, end credit scenes, who Monica Rambeau's friend is.
Yes. At the end, Monica Rambeau is greeted by a Skrull. And of course, she knows the Skrulls because we've already seen her 8-year-old self as Lieutenant Trouble, sitting on a staircase making friends with, young a young Skrull.
Maybe that's the friend.
Maybe.
Well, no, it doesn't say a friend of you, friend of
your mother. Right. It says friend of your mother's. So it could be Nick Fury. It could be Captain Marvel. I mean, they've already announced that Monica Rambeau is a character in Captain Marvel. In Captain Marvel 2, that is, that they're I think going to be filming. I don't think they started filming yet. But yeah, I mean, it could be anybody. But again, it's a wonderful setup in the sense that it gets you excited. It makes you wonder. Oh, who are they referring to? What's going to happen? What's going on? Marvel is great at creating characters that you care about. And a lot of that is through wonderful source material in the comics, and a lot of that is through great casting and great writing. I'm very excited to see these
there
movies.
were a lot of people that were commenting online that when Captain Marvel was brought up, Monica Rambeau does not seem very happy and changes the subject.
Right. Almost like she's upset at Captain Marvel for some reason. And it'll be interesting to see why. Did Carol Danvers never make it back home because she was across the universe and only made it after Infinity War? Yeah. Did Captain Marvel come back? And was it one of those things where she did keep up to some degree with Monica, But in their time of need, she wasn't there, and
Well,
she's holding it against her.
She has been back, and you know that she may have been back for her friend, because she comes back soon after Fury's message.
Right. And the last time we saw in the timeline Carol Danvers was when she was at Tony Stark's funeral. So we can assume that was a few days after the Endgame battle.
I'm not talking about then.
No, I know. I'm just saying would
So
Carol
it could be that she doesn't know that Carol came back and was there for her mom.
Right.
She might have been there for her friend when her friend was going through the cancer and all of that.
Yeah, what I'm wondering is, did Monica find out that Carol Danvers was at that funeral and that Carol Danvers did not go see Monica? Maybe. I don't know.
No, I don't know that would be as big a deal as
I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe we won't. But, one of the fun things to do as a fan is to
all the speculation.
Yeah, is to engage in. I mean, basically, it's fan fiction. We're making things up and imagining what could be, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and I think it speaks incredibly well for Marvel that they've made it this fun. That they've given us a complete story in 9 episodes that was totally satisfying, and still leaves open all of these questions that are also just as satisfying to speculate about.
There's a lot of symbolism and a lot of things that, like the hex
mm-hmm.
and sword, and just bringing little things in. And there are plenty of, you can go watch YouTube videos, all the Easter eggs in this episode, all the Easter eggs in that episode.
Yeah.
I mean, these are very well thought out. And then people are upset about the fact that Wanda's room is different in the flashback than it was in the other movie.
Let's just assume that at some point in her career at Avengers, the Avengers facility, she changed room. No, I agree. There's a lot of Easter eggs. I mean,
you can pick things apart if you really need to. You can pick them apart and find all the things that might be wrong. But there's so much that they did right.
Oh, yeah. One of the things that Elizabeth Olsen as an actress, I don't know if this was her choice or if this was in the script, but either way, I thought it was wonderful that when she is in Westview, both in quote unquote in character of sitcom world, but also just trying to be the all-American housewife, she loses her accent. And then her accent comes back when she is being herself again. And some people online were snarking that towards the end, it was a little bit mishmashed, that she would lose her accent when talking to people outside the hex or when the hex was dropped, and then she'd have her accent back or whatever. I thought Elizabeth Olsen did a great job. I thought they did a good job of the accent being when she wasn't talking to someone from Westview or in Westview. If there was a sentence or two here or there, I don't honestly even remember.
And I know we watched a video that talked about like the Easter eggs, mm-hmm. and how when she throws Monica out, she actually does break the fourth wall because she goes through 4 walls.
Yeah. yeah. So
they put a lot of detail and a lot of thought into developing and producing the show.
Right. People have been wondering if there's going to be a season 2. I think it's pretty clear there's not. I think Kevin Feige didn't want to come right out and say there is no season 2. When he was pitching, the TV shows, he basically said, well, there's some shows that are just to connect stories. There's other shows we can really see a season 2.
Because it would have been giving something away if he had said, we're going to do a season 2.
Right. I mean, I think it's fairly clear that with some of these shows that, like the one on She-Hulk, that's pretty clear if they wanted a second season of a She-Hulk show. Wow, that's a tongue twister. If they wanted a second
season of She-Hulk?
Yeah, that one. Then they could do it because that is kind of a show not between two films. But I think with WandaVision, it's pretty clear.
Hey, if they do a multiverse with She-Hulk, Tatiana Maslany's got it. She's got plenty of practice with Orphan Black.
She can be all the She-Hulks.
Yep.
At once, even.
Yep. Talking to each other.
Exactly.
Fighting each other. Putting pencils in eyes.
Ow. All right. Well, thank you, Golden.
You're welcome.
And that's it for this episode. You can find the show notes at theomegabeam.com/118. If you liked this episode, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Reviews help people who like this stuff find our podcast. If you have any comments or suggestions, please drop us a line at info@theomegabeam.com. Be good to yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you next time.
The Omega Beam. Full stop.